Hey everybody, this is NJ here, the host of the NJ podcast. This is Wisdom Words Wednesdays. This is part of the Everyday series where we share insights and inspiration based off a wisdom principle that will add value to your life. The better decisions you make, the better the quality your life will be. That is why we need wisdom now more than ever. In this episode today, we're going to talk about apply wisdom to your thinking. Apply wisdom to your thinking. Human beings have a distinct advantage over the rest of the animal kingdom. Think about it for a moment. We are not the fastest, we are not the strongest, and sometimes we're not the most organized. But how is it that we were able to rise to the upper echelons where we are able to dominate and in some cases subdue and survive amongst animals that are much stronger and faster than we are? The answer lies in the capacity of our brains and the use of our minds, and for us to be able to apply wisdom to how we think. Our brain is about 25% of our body mass. In comparison to chimpanzees and apes, it is only 8%. And this organ that we call our brain consumes a lot of energy. That is why we were able to communicate and put together complex words and sentences and ideas and communicate to each other who, what, when, where, why, and how. That allowed us to build empires and to build kingdoms and to build businesses and to build families. We were able to apply wisdom to our thinking. That is the distinct advantage that we have today. As part of the human race, there are some people who make sure that they enhance their brain capacity, the capacity to make difficult and complex decisions, the capacity to deal with emotionally tense situations. And these are the people that we now know as high performers. Why? They are able to apply wisdom to your thinking. The best bankers, the best traders, the best business people apply wisdom to their thinking when they are conducting deals. That is the difference between the haves and the have-nots, because they were able to use the resources of their minds. As there is in the societies today a sickness, some people call it a sickness, where people fall into the trap of not wanting to think. Have you ever seen people who fall into the trap of not wanting to think? They'll go off of any piece of information that is fed to them. They won't critically analyze, but break it apart and understand different perspectives and other people's points of views and be siloed in their thinking, and they don't want to think. You will tell them anything, they'll run with it, and they will accept that as fact. And that is very dangerous because it will stop us from reaching the highest potential of thinking possible. And that is a travesty because we were given this amazing tool called the mind and the brain for us to apply wisdom to our thinking. Don't fall into the trap of not wanting to think. Don't be a person who doesn't have an argument. Don't be the person that is always emotive when they have been challenged. Don't be the person that raises their voice and does not raise the level of their intellect and their argument. I saw a post once, an Instagram post once, that said, when you get into an argument, don't raise the level of your voice. Raise the level of your intellect. Raise the level of your argument. And I will share some ways that you can apply wisdom to your thinking so you can avoid being part of people who fall into the trap of not wanting to think. One way is to protect yourself and your time. There is a saying that you should give with discretion. Give with discretion. Time is a very important, valuable, and irredeemable resource at times. If somebody wastes your time for the first time, don't allow them to do so for a second time. You need to learn to give with discretion, because human beings, as cunning as we are and as clever as we are also shrewd in the sense that we will waste your time and carry on with our lives without you as if we didn't waste your time. And you need to apply wisdom to your thinking to protect your time, to say, I'm only going to give with discretion, because you will never be able to get a 2 hours back whether that's someone waits. Have you ever had a 2-hour meeting or a 2-hour conversation, and at the end of that conversation you ask yourself, Kanti, what did I achieve here? Right? And that's because somebody wasted your time. And one of the biggest pains that you will ever go through in life is to crave a conversation with someone that is no longer here. One of the biggest pains you'll ever go through is to crave a conversation with somebody that is no longer here. It could be your mother or your father or someone you looked up to, a sibling, a best friend, and they are no longer alive. And that pain is amplified because you know that you wasted the precious time that you had with them with somebody else who didn't matter as much, or doing something else that didn't matter as much as that person. Now, I encourage you to learn to give with discretion. If somebody says to you, hey, I would like X amount of your time, let's go to this place, start questioning, why are we going there? What are we going to be doing? Who is going to be there? It's not that I don't trust you, I just want to know, is it going to be worthy of my time? And if it's not moving you towards a worthy ideal or not part of a well-deserved break, say to them, I apologize, I'm not going to go there. And more importantly, you need to give with discretion, especially to yourself, because the greatest enemy that you'll ever fight is the enemy inside, that is the enemy that is you. If there was no devil, I would be very scared of myself. Learn to give with discretion. Apply wisdom to your thinking by giving with discretion. Another way that you can apply wisdom to your thinking, when somebody presents information to you that you're not sure of, even if you're sure of it, ask the question, how do you know that? How do you know that? And watch them squirm for a while if they don't know what they're talking about. How do you know that? Remember, we said that people can fall into the trap of not wanting to think. So they may be presenting information to you that's not verified, they haven't thought through, and they want you to accept it as gospel. Ask the question, how do you know that? Somebody comes to you with a piece of gossip, or they say that person doesn't like you. Ask the question, how do you know that? Where's the facts? Where's the information? Where's the data? Where's the screenshots? Where's the evidence? How do you know that? If they say that company is not worthwhile investing in, ask the question, how do you know that? If somebody says to you, gives you a piece of information to say that person's a bad person, or you shouldn't do that, ask the question, how do you know that? And it has nothing to do whether you trust the person's integrity or not. There are times that we can miss certain pieces of information, and when you ask how do you know that, it will force the other person to present their well thought through argument. And if they don't have an argument, then they must go back and verify the information. I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about the Kennedy family, John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy. There was a culture that around the dinner table they would sit down and debate. They will sit down and debate. I'm not 100% sure if it's the Kennedy family or it's the John F. Kennedy's immediate family, or if it was his children. But part of the Kennedy family, what they would do every single dinner time, they would make it a point to debate each other. Why is cocaine good or bad? Why is gun control good or bad? And that forces them to think through their arguments so that they have a good answer to the question, how do you know that? And it's got nothing to do if you trust a person. If someone says to you, here's the facts, and you say, how do you know that? And they'll be like, what, do you not trust me? No, it's not about not trusting you. I just want to make sure that what I run with is factually substantiated. All right, so apply wisdom to your thinking by asking, how do you know that? Another way that you can apply wisdom to your thinking is to don't rush. Take the time to think and process. There may be times where you need to make quick and fast decisions. I get that. In situations where you don't have to make split-second decisions, take the time to breathe, think, let it simmer so that you can make the right decision. Because think about it. If you make a hasty decision, you will lose money on a trade, you will lose money on the stock, you will make the wrong business decision, and a year from now you're no longer in business. You may swerve off the road and you may get into a car accident. You may say something, and then next thing you're out of a job or you're out of a relationship. Take time to think and process. And if you're a person that likes thinking, we've got many personality types. If you are a thinker, and don't let anyone pressurize you and say, I need to take time to think. There was a finance coach who said that before you make a purchase, ask yourself, do I need this? And take 24 hours to think through whether you need it or not. And if you need it in 24 hours from now, then that's fine, then you need it. Take time to think and process. Apply wisdom to your thinking by not rushing. Take time to think and process and make better decisions. Another way that you can apply wisdom to your thinking is to follow the words of Deming. He said, in God we trust, all others bring data. In God we trust, all others must bring data. What does that mean? It means that outside of God, the higher power, any other information and words and facts and school of thought that come from anybody else, your immediate family, extended family, good friends or not so good friends, work colleagues, they must bring data to you. Because without data and information and verified facts, you are nothing more than a person with an unverified opinion. And there's nothing worse than a person with an unverified opinion. Why? Because remember we said at the beginning of the show, there is a culture that exists where people don't want to think. And that is called borrowed intellect. I heard this from a colleague. A colleague said, people don't want to think. They thrive off of borrowed intellect. I said, what is that? There can be people who are more knowledgeable, well learned, well versed in a particular area, and because we may not want to think for ourselves, not because we don't want to, or not because we don't want to think for ourselves, but we are too lazy to think. And then you always run to the same person over and over again, using their intellect. You learn to think for yourself. And also when people come to you and say, I read this at this place, or I heard this opinion from this person, say to them, in God we trust, all others bring data. Because without data and verified facts and information, you're nothing more than a person with an opinion. An opinion is just that, an opinion. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Wisdom Words Wednesdays, where we talk about apply wisdom to your thinking. Let's go through what we talked about. People can fall into the trap of not wanting to think. And this is a travesty given the mind that we were given that allows us to be the human race that we are today. And then one way to apply wisdom to your thinking is to give with discretion. Don't do things or waste your time unless it is a part of your worthy ideal. And when somebody presents information to you, ask them, how do you know that? And then you can see if they've thought through that argument. Don't rush. Take time to think and process. And remember the words of Deming. Very wise words. In God we trust. All others bring data. Hope that you enjoyed this episode of Wisdom Words Wednesdays, where we talked about apply wisdom to your thinking. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Leave a rating. get into the email list. We've got some good stuff going on there. If you're interested in any other merchandise, please head over to the website and have a fantastic Wednesday. Apply wisdom to your thinking. It will allow you to make better decisions, and it will improve the quality of your life. And I will see you on the next episode.